Alright. Hi everyone. We might get started on our chat about nutrition, and I'll focus on your event in Kokoda. So welcome everyone, and for taking this time out of your day to come along and empower yourselves a little bit more towards such an incredible event that's going to maybe change your lives. That's a huge thing that you're going to be undertaking. So we've got many first timers for Kokoda here. Yeah, you're probably going to get asked that a lot today. Good luck. It's a really exciting thing to be a part of, and it's really good that you're getting in nice and early this far out from your event to learn all the things that you need to do to be ready in July for your big race. So well done. This is just a photo of my team from probably 2016, I think. I've done Kokoda 7 times now, the 96K event, with a few different teams. It's 2015, so probably the fastest team we did it was about 13 hours 28, and the run walk sort of team probably 21 hours something. I can't actually remember. That was my first year into Kokoda, so it was a massive learning experience, and I was called up with only 2 weeks before the event to say, would you like to be in a Kokoda team? One of our team members has to have surgery and can't race, so I went in at the very last minute. So as you can imagine, I didn't have a clue. So it was a big learning experience. I did have an endurance background. I've done Ironman triathlon that year, so knew I could go for a long time, but I had no idea what those hills were going to bring on to me. So and nutrition, it was a very, very big learning curve, and very, very different to anything I've experienced before. I am a nutritionist, a clinical nutritionist, and I work out of Physiologic on the Gold Coast at Robina. I'm also CEO of an RTO called Fit Dimension Education, where we deliver Cert 3 and Cert 4 fitness courses, so teaching people to become fitness trainers and personal trainers. So I've got a bit of a mix of the fitness as well as the nutrition under my belt. And what I thought I'll focus on today, I'm keeping it fairly simple, following sort of sports nutrition guidelines, but we will have time for Q&A at the end. So if there's anything more specific, or if you don't disagree with something that I say because you're following a different mode of kind of advice with your nutrition, feel free to ask me something about that. I've stuck sort of to the basic sports nutrition guidelines for today. When we're training really hard, and you may have already experienced this, you can burn an extra 1,500 to 3,000 calories in a day. So if you're training regularly on those weekends, and I'm sure that's when most of you are getting out there to do your big stuff, you might be doing midweek stuff, you will be actually burning through a lot of energy and a lot of calories. So things change a little bit for your needs of what you might need to fuel your body and to recover properly. So for optimal health and recovery, it's really important that we choose healthy foods. Sometimes when we start training, we get really hungry, and we'll just go for anything that we can shove in our mouths. So we've probably all been there, done that, and we might use it as a chance to freewheel with food. If you can actually try and fuel correctly for your body, you'll recover faster, you'll feel better, you'll have more energy, and all of those things. So if you're eating really highly processed foods, high in sugars and processed sort of fats, you'll find that you may get a bit more of an inflammatory response from your food, and therefore that might make you not recover as quickly compared to eating more whole food based foods. Like homemade food is the better choices to go for. Also eating plenty of fruits and vegetables that are high in different colours. So if you try and go for different colours from all the different array, like purple, red, orange, white, greens, all of those different colours from fruit and veggies every day, you'll get a really wide range of antioxidants in your diet that are going to help you recover and have that antioxidant effect. Because when we train hard, we actually cause damage to the body. So when we're recovering, we want to come in and heal our bodies and make our bodies feel better and recover faster. Yeah. And of course, drinking plenty of fluids is always important. I'll talk more about hydration as we go. I've also just popped in here just the importance of your post-training. So if you've been out on a Saturday, Sunday, and you've done a great big hard session, what are you having when you get back to the car or get back home from your session? So you want to make sure that you're having a source of carbohydrate and a source of protein. So what happens is the carbohydrate's going to go back into your muscles and form glycogen. So do you know what glycogen is? It's glucose stored in your muscles and your liver, and that's going to get your muscles ready for the next time you train. So if you don't have anything to eat after your training, sometimes it's hard to eat after training, we just feel a bit ordinary. So if we can put something back into our bodies after training, we're going to get that glycogen uptake. And if we actually combine it with protein, protein helps the glycogen uptake into the muscles, but it also goes in to start to repair the damage that you've just done on your muscles. So I've given you a few meal suggestions on the next page of what you can do after you do a workout and what's important. There's also more complex approaches that we can take, which I'm not going to go into detail with today because we could talk for a year on nutrition if you let me. But yeah, there are days where we can take a more periodized approach. So you know how you've got your training and you don't do hard every day, do you? You do maybe one really long day a week, maybe some faster, shorter stuff, and a few rest days, 1 or 2 rest days a week. You can sort of do the same thing with nutrition, going a little bit more food on certain days and a little bit less food on certain days if you're not needing the fuel. It's a little bit more complex and it's something that you can certainly look at doing, but I'd suggest if you're not used to this whole, it's a new thing for you and you haven't done it before, you might want to look at seeking out some support in writing that around your training so you don't actually hit the wall in training, because if we play around a lot with our food, we can actually cause some issues with our training and not having enough energy at our disposal. So I just thought I'd pop that in because that is an option that we can do. So here's some ideas of some recovery type things that you can have. So you might be using an energy drink. Is anybody using energy drinks yet? Or are you just drinking water? Yeah? Yeah, different drinks, yeah.
Tailwind.
Yes, that's good. So we've got a few different types. So I've, there's different professional sports mixes that are tailored to your needs and very, very good mix of the types of carbohydrates in them. So they have, that absorb easily through the stomach. So there's different ones, and you mentioned Tailwind, we've got Trail Brew, to plug a local product, that's one of our mates on the Gold Coast has that. There's Infinite Nutrition, which is located on the Sunshine Coast, another local. Hammer Nutrition, so I've been sponsored by them quite a few years for different events. I've not been biased towards anyone today, just like, yeah, there's all different ones, and those mixes tend to have a really good combination of the carbs and electrolytes in them to support you through your event. But also you can use them post-training to get some carbohydrates back in. So sometimes it might be just finishing the drinks that you've taken out with you. If we also consider adding in a source of protein with that post-recovery. So something like a smoothie with some fruit and protein, that's a great option. Some people are advocates of like the chocolate milk. If you meet Scott Wimpy out there, he's a big fan of chocolate milk post-recovery, and the AIS definitely promote that as a form of fluid. Definitely don't do that if you're sensitive to dairy. I wouldn't suggest that. Also things like yogurt and fruit, there's some protein and some carbohydrate in that. A sandwich, you know, with some protein, but also I'd put in some vegetables there. I'm a big plant person, pushing plants foods in the mix. A healthy type cereal with milk or yogurt and fruit. Something like sweet potato is great for us, and you can put almond butter on that. So if you're trying to eat foods and avoid certain things, that's a great option. Almonds, nuts, and fresh fruit, something like that, make a good choice. Or high protein bars and maybe some fruit juice or something. So having something in your car, so when you get back to your car for that drive home, you can have a snack ready to go to refuel, or you can finish some of the things that you've taken in your backpack with you and finish that as you drive home. So this is my support crew one year at Kokoda. Good old Libby and Steve, the Ninja Condems. So I'll get into the event now. Yeah, I had to give them a plug. Your support team are the best people in the whole world, and make sure you let them know that, because it's a really hard day being a support crew. I think it's harder than doing the event. Okay, before you set off, so if you can get up early the morning of the race, and this can also be right for your training days, your heavy weekend training days. If you can get about 200 and 300 calories in early before you leave home, that is advised. So 2 to 3 hours. If you have it too close, you might not digest very well. So you need to make sure you get that in nice and early. If you're more bit of a nervous person, you don't think you can get in food, then you can take in something short-term type food, quick foods into the bloodstream, more high glycemic foods, and I've got examples on the next page, and take that in before the start. Or you can do a combination of both. So it really depends on you and how well you're able to digest foods on the day. And what you need to do now in your training is set aside days when you're going to be doing some hard, heavy hill training. And of course that's going to be in your programs, and if it's not, you need to add it now, and practice your nutrition on those days. So pack and pretend it's race day, and take the foods that you're going to trial and use them and time it out. So start doing that now, because we have to train our gut. We don't only train our legs, we actually have to train our stomachs. And some of the biggest mistakes that we make is doing it all on race day and then wondering why we get gut problems. So we want to actually start, and you might find that certain things really affect you badly and other things are so sweet and made you feel amazing. So if you start to sort that out now, and I can't say that this particular thing is perfect, because it might be perfect for me, but it might not be perfect for you. And we all have really massive differences in how fast we might metabolize our foods, and also what our actual nutrient demands are from our bodies. So I've gone on a team with this guy here, this tall guy. He plans like he's going to a kid's birthday party. You should see what he brings food-wise. And I'm one of those people are like, is that all you're going to have? Like, the amount of difference between our calorie intake, he is a hell of a lot taller, like up there, but the amount of difference between what our bodies require is unbelievable. So if I tried to eat what he was eating, I'd be so sick. So we're all really different, and that's what you've got to sort of practice out. If you're looking at losing some body fat as a result of this training and sort of changing up your body, again, you need to be looking at doing that now. We don't do it on race day. We're not trying to, don't eat much and I'll be out here for 30 hours. I'm going to get so lean. Not a good time to do it, because you won't have the energy. Whereas if you're starting to just put in training and increase training right now, you'll probably find that you'll start to get body composition changes anyway. And if you're refueling with more healthy foods, you will find that they'll be more favourable for your body composition. But don't try and diet when you're trying to train hard in that training session, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's not much fun. Yeah. So here's some examples of some pre-exercise. So if you're getting up early, this is the 2 to 3 hour type things. And I will put this, I'll send this to Joe, this PowerPoint. We will also have the video of it. I'll send it so you can have a copy, and I've done a handout as well for you guys. But yeah, just some different, there's the low fat again. Yeah, some different ideas. And again, this needs to be practice. So, you know, something like some cereal with milk or some toast with banana, peanut butter, that seems to be something that people like. Or a liquid meal replacement, like an early morning type smoothie, would go down well, or you can use a sports bar. So this is definitely early in the morning to digest. And so you've already sort of topped up your glycogen stores. Yep. And then foods that we can consume during training. So this is one of our checkpoints. I think this is Holly's checkpoint, our first one. So usually recommended per hour is about 100 to 300 calories, and that's a pretty broad spectrum of amount of food. So from 100 calories is probably more how I said I don't burn off much compared to what Andy does. So it's probably, yeah, I'd be at one end of the spectrum, he'd be at the other end of the spectrum. And it really does depend on your size, on your weight, and the intensity of your effort. So one of the things when you're going really hard, so if you're running and you're going in at a heart rate that's really high, you'll burn more sugars out of the body. So you'll be using up glucose, you'll be using up that stored glycogen for energy. Okay, because when you're high and you're not getting much oxygen in, then it's hard to burn off meal type food, like that's higher in protein and fat, if you're not really well fat adapted. But I'm not going into that right now. But the higher intensity it is, the higher the calorie burn, but the calorie burn comes more from higher sugar sort of foods. Does that make sense to everyone? Do you know what I mean? Whereas if you're out strolling all day, you can tell there's not a lot of digestive discomfort going on. So you actually can eat proper food, yeah. And unless you're going up a hill or something where that intensity might increase and it becomes harder, then you might find that you run into a bit of gastric problems. But if you're a team that's planning on walking the whole way and you're going to be out there for 30 sort of plus hours, you can actually look at more solid food in your regime. I'll look at foods in a sec as well. But you should be able to digest those a little bit better compared to if you're planning on running it. So if you're planning on running it, you tend to use a lot of liquid nutrition, and that's where those sports drinks that we rattled off before are really important. And it might be more gels and really fruit and those really quick, easy to digest foods. If you're planning on walking, then it would be well advised actually to take in more solid food. And usually if you're walking, you might spend a little bit more time in a checkpoint compared to someone. Often when people are running it, they'll just run into the checkpoint, it's bang, 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 and they're gone again. They're not stopping and taking on food and allowing that body to calm down a little bit. They actually just, yeah, it's fueling and going again. So if you're taking a little bit more time out, yeah, definitely you can go more complex foods. But I've just sort of showed you so you can see, like when we're saying 100 to 300 calories, 50 calories is, you know, things like pieces of fruit. My favourite thing that I've put up there, and a few other people agree with me, is pineapple. Has anyone tried pineapple? Yeah. Pineapple, I don't know if it's because it's high in digestive enzymes. It just seems to be just the right amount of sweetness, juiciness, and it digests really well. Watermelon goes down well, grapes go down well, yeah?
What about dried pineapple?
Yeah, so with dried fruit, if you just be a little bit cautious, definitely dried fruit's great. If you take on too much dried fruit, it can cause gastric distress later on, as in diarrhea. So yeah, if you're using stuff like, I put dates and things like that in, and other dried fruit, so I wouldn't just be using that the whole way as my nutrition source. I'd mix it up with other things, but definitely snacking on some of that's great. It will attract some water in the body as it rehydrates through that digestion process, but it can cause a few gut problems if you have too much. Yeah, so just keep that in mind. Bit of dark chocolate, a lot of people like their chocolate. And 100 calories, so I've given you loads of examples of what 100 calories might be, from really more simple natural foods to a little bit more lollies and stuff like that. So, because we're all different and we like different things. So I've gone sort of different pieces of fruit. Potatoes, great. Has anyone tried potato? Yeah, give it a go. So you can steam or bake potato, just white potato or sweet potato. Sweet potato's texture will be a bit mushier, bit of salt on it, a Ziploc bag, it goes in your pack really well. The white potato just holds together. And most people who use potato find that it doesn't cause tummy problems, and it is actually easy to get down. As we proceed through the event, sometimes we might start with things like lollies, gels, fruit, sugary drinks. As you proceed through the event, you might find that about 50, 60 Ks, you can't even consider the thought of eating sugar. And it's just so revolting. And if you haven't prepared non-sugary foods, it might actually end your day if you haven't got options there to eat. So once you get further on, have some more savoury foods available for you. And I will have a look at the idea of more solid foods as well. But have options like your potato or sandwiches. Yes, sometimes sandwiches with avocado or Nutella is a big hit on sandwiches, or Vegemite. So just trialling those. And the very first time I did Kokoda, I was mentioning this to someone up the back, I actually had a container about that big. So I had no clue, and I brought what they told me, and I had everything. I had lollies, drinks, Coke, sandwiches, soups, all of the things I'd packed. I didn't touch 3/4 of it, but my kids had a field day when I got home going through my food. But it was great because I had no idea of what I might like, and it did actually change over the course of that race. So don't set yourself up for a little narrow-minded type mindset. The other thing that you can do if you haven't thought of something, because sometimes you're out running or hiking and you're suddenly like, oh, I'm killing for a cup of coffee right now, and I know that's what my body wants. So that's when you can actually ring through to your crew and go, hey, gee me up, put the kettle on, I'm going to make a coffee or something. So ringing through to your team is a great idea. That's just a heap of different ideas, and I'll send you through those. And here's some checkpoint suggestions, like I mentioned, of what you can pack. So I've sort of mentioned everything. One of the things that's gone down really well for me is soup. It's warming, it's the middle of the night, it might be pouring rain, expect that. And you're freezing cold, someone in your team's struggling, you're hiking and it's taking a long time. Coming in and having a nice cup of hot soup, or people like a pasta or a hot meal, goes down so well. So don't discount things like that, and your team can heat that up for you. Yep. So don't worry, you'll get all these. And there's some pictures of just different ideas of things that have good amounts of carbohydrate in that might go down well, like watermelon, oats, rice, breads, pasta, mashed potato, normal potato, chocolate milk, sweet potato, all different types of ideas. Being organised is really important. So having your team all on board and your crew. This is really essential that your crew knows you. If you have a crew person per person in your team, that's fantastic. We've had that before, so you just run in and that one person's looking after your every need, and it's brilliant. But sometimes you don't have that many support crew. But if you can actually be communicating really well before, this is what I want and this is how I'm going to do it, this is the way I roll, this is what I'm going to need, your crew can be there and doing all of those things for you. The communication flow is beautiful, and you get what you need. And as I've mentioned before, best to overpack and use a variety of food. And we also my team also write up a list, so this is Scott's list, you might not be able to read it very well, of things that he wants at the checkpoints. I couldn't, it was this small, the photo, sorry, but see how he's written up what he wants at what checkpoint, so his crew actually knows, and that's sticky taped onto the top of his bag with all his food in it, so they know he's going to be picking up his headlamp at this checkpoint, he's going to need 2 litres of water at this checkpoint because you've figured it all out. Yeah, so that's not a bad idea, is when you kind of get your head together. That's obviously close to the event after you've done lots of practice. One of the things that happens a lot, and I don't know if anyone here's ever experienced gastrointestinal distress in a race. Sometimes it's vomiting, sometimes it's diarrhea, or severe nausea, and it's nothing worse. It can actually be the end of your race. And I've known teams that are unbelievable runners that haven't made the finish line. They've got the physical talent, they're so fit, they're so ready, and for some reason they haven't got their nutrition right on the day. So when we're going into a race, we have a lot of anxiety and stress. You know, it's the first time you're doing something, or you might be putting yourself under pressure because it's not the first time you're doing it and you want to get a certain time. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into us psychologically that can start to contribute to us not digesting our food as well. But other things are like too much fibre, too much fat or protein in some of your mixes that you can't digest. Remember I talked about how you digest, if it's a higher intensity, it needs to be higher in glucose. So some of those things might affect. And different mixes in your carbohydrate. Need nice mixes of carbs in your fluids that digest well. So professionally mixed drinks are the best ones to go for because they've got that mix and you don't have to think about it. What you can do though, if you start to find you can't digest, you might need to slow your intensity down and just sip and spit. So take in your carbohydrate drink, rinse your mouth with it and then spit it out. Your brain will register sweetness on your tongue and it will actually give you a little bit of burst of energy. So you can start to take on little steps like that. It's really quite hard, and I've done Kokoda once. I didn't eat from 50 k's to the finish because I couldn't digest anything. And luckily I still made it, but it was hard. I'm not taking on any sources of energy for that. So we want to make sure we start taking on nutrition early and hydrating. Hydration is one of the keys to preventing gastrointestinal distress. Flying through, and there's one of my teammates there, Andy, nailing his, look how good he looks, and that's a numbin bar haul. You can tell he's having an actual awesome day just by the look on his face. Might have been that his kids and that were there. He's a bit of a poser. No. What we can do, when you do one of your weekend training sessions, weigh yourself before you leave home, and then weigh yourself when you get home, and then work out what you've taken on board while you've been out, and then how much weight you might have lost. So you might have drunk 1 or 2 litres in your training session, but you still might be 500 grams or a kilo down from what you were that morning. That's not fat loss, it's fluid loss. And that sort of says, okay, my rate of sweating is about this much. We don't have to try and drink as much as we possibly can so our weight doesn't shift. We could risk overhydration, but we want to make sure that we're going to the toilet still while we're out there, urinating I mean, actually going, and we want that urine not to be dark yellow or dark orange or brown. Okay, that's not good. That means you're dehydrated. You need that urine to be on the clearer side. It's probably going to be a bit coloured. You are actually sweating really highly even in July, but you need to be thinking about that. But you also need not to go ballistic on drinking too much. Oh, I need to hydrate. That's really risky. You can actually end up with something called hyponatremia. So you water down your salt concentration in your body too much, and it can lead to coma.
How much
So,
do you have to take when you hydrate? A lot.
yeah, well, often it's more of a novice. Yeah, it's more of a novice issue when they're just thinking, and like I think puff, 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 drink, 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 I need to drink. Usually more experienced you are.
You obviously carry so much with you.
Yeah, usually about 2 litres, but there are sometimes small spots where you can pick up a bit more water. Yeah, you just need to make sure that you are hydrating, and I'd go by urine output. If you realise I haven't done a wee for like 6 or 7 hours, that's a pretty good indicator that you're probably dehydrated, yeah? So as soon as you, if you just become dehydrated by 1%, your performance can drop by 5%. You're telling me to shut up. Your performance can drop by 5%. And the perceived effort becomes much harder. So when you're there going on like this for a while, suddenly becomes at the same pace. You're like, what just happened? What? It's dehydration. So hydrating, practice your hydration in your training, yeah? And so there's loads of adverse effects. So that's where I've said 1% loss, cramps, not being able to concentrate, feeling like, yeah, just really woozy. You also get, this is where the nutrition comes in, delayed gastric emptying. So if you're not drinking enough, your food's not digesting out of your gut properly, then you'll start to run into gut distress. So one of the things that I think you should do is, even if one of your teammates has an alarm, you can go beep, everybody drink, or someone be in charge of telling everyone to drink, or be in charge of, has everybody eaten? Checking in on the hour, has everybody eaten? Even if it's like your phone goes or your watch goes beep on the hour, has everybody eaten and been drinking? Because we've had that in our team where people that haven't, and we've actually not checked because we're all more, been more experienced, and suddenly we realised one of the guys hadn't eaten or drunk for 25 Ks, and suddenly what was wrong with him? But he hadn't spoken up either, but we hadn't checked. So a big mistake. So it's a team event. Work together with those things. So we want to make sure we don't get into gut upsets, and we want to make sure we're hydrating. So start practicing that now as well. Can't believe how fast time goes. Tapering. So one of the things is rest up in that last week. Don't try and get out there and train and think you're going to get fit in that last week, because it doesn't happen. Eat really healthy, get plenty of sleep. And you can start actually 3 days out from the event. I'd start to increase my carbohydrate a little bit, not over the top, just start to increase a little bit. But don't have loads and loads of foods high in fibre, because you might end up getting an upset tummy, especially mixed in with those nerves. So getting into that event. And we've got a few questions, yes? For time for questions now, if you've got some questions that you'd like to ask me. Sorry it's so quick, we only have a short amount of time, but I'm here to answer anything.
Forgive me, I don't know what energy gel is.
Oh, okay, sorry. Do they have any available out? Is any companies here?
I don't think so.
Okay. So different companies have different gels. So there's some are at supermarkets, some are at your sports stores or cycle stores, or running shops will have them. So there's different brands like Hammer, there's Endurolites,
Is it like electrolytes?
So what they are, it's about 100 to 120 calories in a little gel packet. You just tear the top off and squirt it into your mouth. So it's basically food on the run. So it's not solid food, it's more like high concentrated liquid food in a gel format. So when you're going at a higher intensity, that's a good way to get into food, into your nutrition. The other thing you can do is you can make your own gels by your sports drink. If it's in a powder, you can actually make that into a concentrate, and then maybe drink water, but have your sports drink in a little gel bottle and take that in over, that's what I've done in different races. So drink water as my main drink, but then have my sports drink made up as a gel in higher concentrations. So yeah, look out for those. If you Google something like Hammer or Enduralites or Shot Blocks, there's heaps and heaps of different brands, and it's very much individual. Some people hate different flavours. Yeah, so the lemon can taste like lemon detergent. That's me personally. Other people love lemon. Yeah, so you might like chocolate or salty caramel. There's different flavours. So it has to be trialled though. Yeah, so sorry, I should have said that. It's me assuming something. Yeah, good question. Any other questions? Yeah. If you bonk, yep. So if you run out of stored glycogen in the body and there's no fuel left for you to move forward, it's what we call hitting the wall. So you might actually appear drunk or wobbly on your feet. The only way is to stop, rest, and slowly start to take nutrition back in. You might actually even have to stop for like 1 to 2 hours and actually slowly get that food back in. So we don't want to get to that point clearly, because that's a lot of time. And watch out for your teammates with things like that. So one of the signs with your teammates is if someone's persistently like falling behind, get them in second place. Like if you're going single file, don't let the person that's struggling at that moment in time be at the back. It's not the right place. As soon as, you know what it's like, if you're suddenly at the back, you're suddenly feeling defeated just being at the back, put a strong person at the back and a strong person at the front, and then people in between, and stay like that. And I've had that before. You see another team and someone's like, you don't even know they're in a team, they're that far back and they're struggling and they're defeated, they're even sitting down, and it's like, where's their team? And you know that team will end up DNFing. So you want to put them in and you want to watch out for each other. If they start to show those signs, even if you have to stop, and we've had to do that, just stop for a bit. Okay, we're going to stop for 15 minutes, get some food in, check on each other, make sure we're okay, and then we'll get going again. And if you lose time, you lose time. It doesn't matter in the long run. If you can finish, that's more important. Yeah? Good question. Yeah?
For the average Joe who's doing it and not racing it to
Yeah.
win, when you get to your actual meal times that you
Yeah.
normally get to in a day, do you recommend that we actually stop at the stop with our crew and actually have more of a substantial meal, or just have a soup and keep going?
I would recommend, especially if you're out walking and it's going to be out for a long time and you're not trying to win, but you want to make sure the 4 of you get to the finish line, I would take some time out at the checkpoint. It's not going to hurt you. In the end, you might actually make up time, because time sometimes out there, when you're far away from your crew and the wheels are falling off and no one's there to help, a lot of crap goes down, you know, like it can be quite detrimental. Whereas at the checkpoint, if you can regroup, make sure everyone's good to go, and then get going and then all set out on a good pace again, you'll be far better off than trying to go, push, hurry up, we've got to get going. It is a bit different if you're trying to place, and yeah, because you tend to go, hurry up, let's go, and we want to be quick, but you've sort of worked that out. But you can even say, okay, our checkpoints, we're going to be here for half an hour at the checkpoints, pre-plan that. So no one feels that they're under the pump and under the pressure.